Hey, it is your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. We're zooming in and focusing in on observation or perception of narcissistic, malignant narcissistic, or psychopathic individuals, and what you might need to attend to as a red flag, an identifier of behavior, something that stands out about them, which you should really pay heed to, you should pay attention to in order to safeguard yourself. Now, the main thing with a narcissist, a malignant narcissist or a psychopath, is that they don't look disordered. They don't always appear like they are dangerous. They don't always appear that they are contradictory to our best interests. These people can be good looking, they can be handsome, they can be gorgeous, they can be charming, they can have money, they can not have money. But there's always something about them which is deceitful, manipulative, cunning, and concealing in their behavior traits. So what does this look like? What does this look like on an everyday sort of behavior or encounter with them? Somebody who uses their nonverbal communication in an unnatural way. And it's not that they're quiet, but they're quiet with a sort of tension, quiet with a scoping out, quiet with a sort of sly tension, as if they're trying to look in and ready to pounce. If you were to look at a lion that is waiting in the brush, that is waiting in the sage, before they're going to pounce on that, that wounded antelope, that wounded gazelle, the wounded giraffe, whatever it is that they're looking for their prey, you can see that they're sort of crouching down, that they're kind of, they have a stare, they have a gaze, they have a predatory gaze about them, and they can be very still and unnaturally still. They can unnaturally move or crouch their behavior and really outside of the regular personal space that most people would engage in. So it's what we call basically a pattern interrupt. In other words, because of the way that they are sussing out and the way that they connect with others, oftentimes they have a very low pain threshold, or they have really a lack of fear. They have a certain deficit with which most normal people would have in terms of emotion, in translation into the physical body. So, and this also includes, observation of societal norms, which you don't have to basically hear someone, they're not going to say out loud in a conversation, I'm respecting your personal space. Your personal space is, 2 to 3 feet outside of you. And, basically an arm's length, is where you would keep, really sort of, very uncomfortable people out of your range. And you will find that these people who are malignant in nature, psychopathic in nature, or harmful, deceitful in nature, they are not always engaging in the same body nonverbal communication. They have a predatory stare. They're sort of crouching, they will be at unnatural angles to you. They will not engage in the, normal rhythm of conversation or the normal rhythm of walking. In other words, if you're at a meeting or, walking, to a restaurant, you're going to see, or you're in a gathering with them, that they might just have their body just, there's something about them which is not within the normal personal space. They might either violate boundaries by getting too close, violate boundaries by getting really too far, or encroaching on space of other areas, whether it's a business meeting, a restaurant, whether it's an office, whether it's a family gathering. You're going to see that their behavior is outside of really kind of the gathering area. They will, just really sort of going off into very askew, areas which get your attention. You're like, why is this person doing this? And then so you have this distraction, you have this pattern interrupt, And rather than attending to a natural flow and ease, you're now, drawn to this person and what they're doing. Something seems not right. But the issue is that sometimes when people are in relationships with them, they interpret this as a positive. The fact that this person is not going with the flow, that they're not afraid of natural societal norms. They're not afraid of the management, or they're not afraid of, sort of going into offices where they're not supposed to be. A lot of people find this attractive before they know that there is something dangerous about this person. And so you have to use this as a red flag, as a sort of observational tool about a malignant, personality disordered individual, psychopathic individual who will violate boundaries and be really outside of societal norms, and also be attentive to whether you're interpreting this as a positive or negative, because this oftentimes is how people become addicted to this individual. They become, this psychopath or malignant behavior becomes the new norm for people, and then this is how they get gaslighted. This is how they get lost in their life. They begin attuning to this sort of negative, deceptive assessment of the situation, which is, again, it's like the crouching lion in the brush. They begin to be in the fringe of what this person's thought is, and they become very disconnected to their natural engagement system, which is your natural instinct, which is to tell you, this is safe, this is not safe. And then that's why people end up getting into a lot of trouble, because they begin to identify with that crouching lion, that predator, the interspecies predator, and become slowly dissolved by their thoughts, by really their behavior, which begins, also the emotion and the emotional assessment, and also their pattern of thoughts become very attuned to this predator, and they don't realize it, and then they become really almost like a venom. They begin to become numb and really almost paralyzed by this sort of behavior in this person, because they're very numbing in nature. In other words, they're not afraid. They're very manipulative, and there's something about them which is inexplicably attractive. And oftentimes what is attractive is the fact that this person does not obey regular societal norms, that they have a lack of conscience and a pathological emotional dysregulation, which creates there's a whole host of different chemistry that's going on within these people, which oftentimes is what is attractive to this person. You don't realize that you're getting sucked in. You don't realize that this person is disengaging you from your natural your natural instinct, your reticular activating system, which is to tell you what is right or wrong, and yet it puts you on a hypervigilance because you're kind of identifying with the predator. And this is really what becomes so, I think, what a lot of people become so distraught or distressed about is that the fact that they're so, they become so de-energized, they become so depleted, and they become so anxious, and they develop a lot of the chronic fatigue syndromes and the CPSD and post-traumatic stress syndrome, is because they're really so getting sucked in to this individual who, again, is psychopathic in nature or malignant in nature. And again, it's the emotional dysregulation. They don't connect to things like life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. There's something about them which, does not want that for you. They take pleasure in cunning, manipulating, and taking people over. So if you are, succumb and, you are then controlled by this person, they're taking a lot of pleasure, yet it can become very paralyzing in its effects. So see if you can identify some of this engagement that you had perhaps gotten sucked into the early love bombing of the relationship, and then the devaluation. See how you have, interpreted this, and then the discard. See how you had perhaps become almost like addicted to a sort of venomous sort of assessment of life, especially as it relates to this person, and see if it's, taken away from that big picture connection that you have with life and other people, and has begun sort of like a psychological takeover or a pattern interrupt in your own life. And if that has occurred, realize that this is your cue to disengage and begin to resensitize and again begin to value the softer, really the more emotional connection that you have, which is the sentiments, the sentimentality that you have. Begin to come back to that. Begin to rehabituate yourself rather than being disengaged from that whole reticular activating system that was really maybe cut off from a malignant narcissist or psychopathic individual in your life. It's peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.